Silver Society.
Welcome to the Silver Eye Society podcast. It's our monthly AMA. This is the public portion where we will be answering some of the questions you have sent us. And you've sent
And what
us...
day is it?
You just don't allow me to even have an intro anymore. Just will
And
not
what
tolerate
day is it?
It
for
is
this
the
April
last
AMA?
day of April, which means we are making progress in getting them on time, okay? Because the last ones have been recorded like days after the end of their appropriate month. So now we're recording them within the correct month. So progress is progress, okay? Now, let's make some progress on this episode. We are going to be answering 5 questions in this public portion. Gotta do some more vocal exercises. You see what happens when you rush me? How to develop discernment versus judgment. What was the movie that got you into movies as serious art/philosophy? Your views about how to focus on creating even during dark times. In the pursuit of truth, where to draw the line between morality, practicality, and circumstance, and perhaps my favorite question for this part of the AMA, what's your favorite Nine Inch Nails album? And I will also tell you why. So, let us get started, shall we? Are you okay with that? Would you like to interrupt once again rudely and, take the stage from me?
Why don't you shill our Patreon now so that people, while they're still listening, actually sign up?
Good. So here we are. We're setting up. We're doing work. Look at this beautiful set. Listen to my beautiful voice that I work to maintain, not shrill and nasally, so that you can enjoy this episode where we're going to answer your questions. All of this, and we ask for your support. So your support for the Silver Eye Society. We need it, because if not, we may have to do boring work that serves no one. Does it serve anyone when I have to write articles about why martial arts is good for children or whatever? No. It serves people when I answer what my favorite Nine Inch Nails album is, okay? So
Why don't you show them one of the vocal exercises?
I don't think I want to do that.
I think you should go ahead and just publicly show them. People want to have fun. People want to get to know people in the AMA, right? So why don't you just go ahead and do one of those?
I will not comply. I do not comply.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, great. And $2 in the Patreon gets you access to
the private portion of this AMA, in which we will answer even more questions like, are you tempted to leave California? Which I have a great story behind the answer for that. Fiction writers whose works rock your world. How do you know when the abyss is gazing back into you? So we're going to get Nietzschean up in here. How to deal with character attacks and malice from people that you know. And we're going to talk about animals, their rights or lack thereof. What's up? Should we give them rights? Will they take those rights one day? We don't know. And you won't know unless you join the Silver Eye Society to become a patron. Only $2. That's not even a coffee. And I need a lot of coffee to be answering, what happens when you gaze into the abyss. So if you'd like to join us and support free inquiry, deep discussion, offensive ideas, do so. You can. It's your right. Okay. Let's go to the first question. How to develop discernment versus judgment. Do you have an answer you want to go first, or shall I?
Sure, I'll do it. So I'm pro-discernment and I'm pro-judgment. I actually endorse judging people and things. I don't understand why anyone got this idea in their head where they shouldn't judge things. That makes no sense to me. That's nonsense. No one actually lives that way. And no one should live that way. We judge things all the time. Every choice you make about what you eat and how you dress and all that kind of stuff, those are based on judgments unless someone put food in your mouth or they dressed you. So we live in a world of judgment in which we're constantly making judgment. I think of discernment a little bit more as kind of the aristocratic version of judgment. It's a little bit more, it's a little quieter. It's a little more, maybe you don't actually say out loud about your discernment, it's a fancier word. But I'm pro-discernment, pro-judgment. Don't think it's wrong. I think That doesn't mean you have to be pro-condemnation. You don't need to condemn others necessarily, even though a little bit of condemnation is warranted here and there. But, well, a little bit. It is the natural outgrowth of judgment and discernment to some degree. A little bit of condemnation. But, watch yourself, because you can get condemned pretty easily for a lot of things you do also. That's a pretty basic take. It's really not that complicated. I reject this idea about not judging things. That's insane. What is that? It's like a rock or like some sort of non-conscious object that doesn't judge anything. It's like it doesn't make any sense at all. Like even animals make judgments.
No. I will take
Are you like
the
a rock?
position. I will take the position of the non-conscious object, okay? Because a non-conscious object is also the aim of outlooks like Buddhism that try to distance yourself from yourself, not perceiving the world through ego, but instead through a more unified view, okay? So there's two ways to deal with this concept of judgment, and there's the Western perspective, which you have so masterfully illustrated for us, which is I have to judge things to know things. I have to judge things to move through the world. And of course, to a certain degree, that is correct. I do think you have to make judgments about what is good for you, what you like, what will help you, what is bad for others, for you, all of that. That is judgment. Discernment to me is more like it's a refined kind of judgment, which is understanding that you can separate the moral aspect out of judgment a lot. Because the way I see judgment now in our culture, and particularly like in this, of this day, like and it's not that people haven't been judgmental. On the contrary, they've probably been worse, more judgmental. Some of the problem that you're touching on is the fact that people think that nothing should be judged as bad or good. And it's like, it's not that you should have no final opinion or view on whether things are bad or good. Rather that you should not go through life automatically and unconsciously often applying those judgments without even considering the fact that you are making the choice to apply a judgment. So I view this in terms of become aware of that process and take a pause before you apply that judgment to actually consider whether the automatic judgment you're going to make is worthwhile, like actually even makes sense. I mean, we judge a bunch of things immediately because we can't consciously be evaluating everything in our environment at all times. It's exhausting, and we simply do not have the capacity to do that. But you should try to be aware of the fact that you do judge things constantly, and that just judging something per se doesn't mean that the judgment is accurate. Your judgments can be wrong. They can be definitely very wrong. And so the act of becoming aware of judgment, of your judgmentalness, to me is how you give yourself a chance to not go through life just automatically, like unconsciously judging things and not trying to see if things have merit that you just haven't seen yet. So I come at it from more of this Eastern perspective, which is nothing really has judgment to begin with. We apply that judgment, but you have to be aware of the process of applying judgment, or you're just going to unconsciously go through life thinking you know everything and immediately judging everything, and then not actually giving yourself a chance to find anything new, interesting, or insightful. That's where discernment comes in. I think discernment is, maybe you can say, it's what you do after you've taken that pause to think, am I judging this thing too quickly? Am I judging this thing or this person or this action or whatever it is automatically, like from some biases that I have or from some propensity that I have in this direction or against it,
I judge this answer too lengthy.
Well, I will try to sum up all of Eastern philosophy and the interaction between the Western worldview in less than 5 minutes. For our next question.
Well, you failed. I don't know anything about it. That was a quasi Buddhist. California has obviously infected your brain with some sort of. Why don't you just put a tie-dyed headband on, go out and walk into the desert, and It
sounds great. Sounds excellent. Luck. Sounds awesome. I would like to do that. I don't need the headband though. That's tacky. let's keep it, let's keep it fashionable as we wander off into the desert for the 40 days and 40 nights of atonement. So, okay. I think that's a satisfactory answer, right?
I think it's great. What's the next question?
What was the movie that got you into movies as serious art/philosophy? So this is kind of for me, but you can answer it anyway.
Why is it for you?
Because it came to me. So I think the person that asked this was asking me. But you can provide an answer as well. I'm the one that invented the podcast, okay? Like this podcast, not all podcasts. I invented the Silver Eye Society, okay? I am the founder. You're the co-founder or whatever. And so it's my epiphany that birthed this podcast, you understand? So if you have one, you can share it. But primarily this question. Okay.
I'm not editing out that weird snort you just did either.
I don't care.
In the past, I've helped you before in the past editing out this weird snorting, but just as punishment for that stays in there. In fact, I'm going to crank the volume up on it. But I edited it out. I'm going to put it to 100. How about that? So, okay, great. Well, I don't care. I'm going to answer this question briefly anyway.
Okay.
I thought about it and then I couldn't think of an answer. It wasn't really, I don't know. A friend of mine gave me a box of DVDs once and there were a lot of good movies in it. So that helped. Also, Werner Herzog. Done. Go. Your turn.
You answer these questions like you're in an interrogation on a trial. Elaborate.
It is an interrogation.
It kind of is.
It's not a conversation. I'm not asking these people questions. I don't even know who the fuck they are.
That's true.
What are you talking about?
It's an interrogation, yeah.
Yeah.
For only $2.
We submit to, we've asked for it, but
you can interrogate us every month. Just sign up to Patreon. Okay, for me, it's the Seventh Seal. I actually, which is rare for me to have a distinct memory of a moment in time, but I remember exactly when I saw a movie and realized it was more than just a movie. That I was able to link existential philosophy with that film, and I could see how it was being like explored in the film, and it just blew my mind. Maybe that's why that's one of my favorite movies also, because it's kind of so special to me as a moment where I viewed movies totally differently. But that's Ingmar Bergman is one of my favorite directors. I just love that black and white, moody, existential art film shit. That's just forever to me nourishing to the soul. So that's the movie. Like that's the movie. You watch that movie, you're gonna see some shit,
Bit of a
movie.
basic answer, but at least it was fairly quick.
And we've done episodes on the Seventh Seal where we denigrate the TSA and talk about the pandemic because that movie takes place during the Crusades and the plague. So, go watch it. It's great. It's excellent. Okay. Next question. What do we got
You
here?
don't feel like that's a basic film to represent?
Absolutely not.
It's a little basic. I like it. It's great.
Basic. Bergman is basic.
It's a little basic. It's a little
Bergman
basic art house. I mean, it's a little in terms of art house cinema. It's a little basic. It's your entry level art house cinema. But look, I think it's great.
Well, it was entry level. That's literally the point of the question.
Yeah.
Is that where did I enter? Well,
it's a tad basic, but that's okay. Isn't that what the kids say? They call things basic? Or is that like 20 years ago? I don't know.
That's
anyway,
true. Moving on.
I'm in a rowdy mood today. I'm rowdy. Been out running around. Running through a wet baseball field.
Yeah, you
health.
were like running in the rain or something, like in a storm. It
was mild rain.
It's kind of unhinged.
It's not unhinged.
Just a little bit. Because you never run otherwise. Why did you just choose the rain to run?
The rain chose me. I had no choice. I had to be back here to answer these questions. So I had to go do the thing.
Well,
so I'm ready to rock. That's why I have a very aggro attitude. I mean, I'm not really aggro. I'm just, I'm sprinting through the AMA. I'm still sprinting through the AMA. That's what I think about it.
Yeah, well, keep it easy because we gotta, we want to provide the people something substantial here. We're not racing. We've got serious questions here. Like here, your views about how to focus on creating even during dark times. I'd love to hear your answer. No, I'd love to hear your answer first. I think you should.
Can you
go.
see all these paintings behind me? I don't know if you can or not, but yeah. So
They're
just
all
do
created during
things.
dark times.
Yeah, I mean all of it. So you just do things. You can't wait for inspiration. That's not gonna work. That's fucking not real. Anyone who tells you that, they're lying to you. I'm inspired all the time. No, they're not. They're lying. Those are lies. You're inspired like 3% of the time at best, and the rest of it's just slogging through.
And if it's your mind, then you just live in a dark time, and so that's just always where you create from. If you didn't create in dark times, then you just wouldn't make anything, because there's no
ups
other.
And downs.
Like when you're sprinting in the rain, that's the up.
It wasn't really raining hardcore. It was just a light mist at first. It had been
drizzle.
raining a lot though, so there was a lot of water on the dirt.
Gross.
I sprint on a baseball field.
That's a dark time.
That's another pro tip. You can always go sprinting. It helps create chemicals in your mind that lifts the veil of darkness so that you can do whatever creative endeavor you're into. I'm serious. Exercise helps, you know?
That's true. Well, the CDC is going to have us pulled. How dare you offer
They didn't ban
medical
sprinting during
advice.
the pandemic.
But they didn't recommend
sure.
it. Okay.
I don't think
They didn't recommend it. Okay, my answer to this. Some of the most rewarding creating you will do will be when you do it when you don't feel like doing it, or when you're particularly going through a dark time. And there's kind of the stereotype of the artist that is more insightful and creates better art when they're going through a dark time. It's kind of a problem. I've spoken about it with some artist friends of mine, that when you're particularly going through something, that's actually when sometimes you feel more pulled to create, because that's the avenue by which you're working out the problems that you're having. And so if you see it like that also, if you do struggle with turning to creation during a hardship, then it helps to view it as a process by which you deal with the hardship. Not just kind of like, oh, I need to go do this. It's for the hardship. Like, that's exactly when you might be able to create something more interesting, more profound, and that will be helpful for you to get through whatever you're going through, is to create. Because there's something curative about that. There's something also just intrinsically uplifting about creating when you are going through something difficult, because you're making something good. You're doing something creative, bringing something into the world despite dealing with the world's difficulties. So it's kind of like this mathematical equation almost, like you're dealing with this darkness, but you can create lightness. And that in and of itself, I think in a way you kind of unconsciously prove to yourself that life is good, life is worth living despite hardship, because I can create something good. So it's kind of about how you approach it, how you look at it. Anytime I deal with like making something and I view it in terms of like a task, I need to get this done, it's on my to-do list type of thing, it's almost not art anymore. And it doesn't actually even matter if it's literally doing art. If I approach it with this sense of like, it's on my to-do list, it's a task to do, it kind of sucks the artistry out of it. So you can manipulate your perspective and how you view creating, and particularly creating during dark times, so that it's something good for you that you're even drawn to. All right. I think that's
You can also do
substantial
drugs.
answer.
It's another option. Get you through the dark times.
Don't tell people to
You
do
know?
that.
I'm not. I've said you could. I'm not endorsing it.
Don't do that. Don't do that. See, that's the difference though, right? Is that kind of like, I mean, depends on the drug you do. Like,
When I mean drug, I mean sprinting.
That's not.
These half measures of yours will produce no art. I had a little half a glass of wine. Oh, I'm going to do a journal entry. It does not work. Look at history. Look at the people that have actually done things. It isn't a pretty scene. In fact, I advise you to stop making art, whoever asked this question. It's really not a good idea financially for your brain, any of that, you know?
You're wrong. You're wrong because you can pursue art as a hobby, okay?
That's true.
And that's okay. Like, it's good for people to do creative things without necessarily feeling like they need to make it a job or whatever. Like, you're saying maybe don't pursue art as a career. That's probably true. But also, I don't care. I mean, yeah, or do whatever you want, I think. Yeah.
Great advice. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it should be.
I'm joking around. To be serious for a moment, just in case this person was extremely serious about it, it does help if you're having mental problems or whatever to make things. So keep rocking. All right, what's the next? What's the next?
We got a really
keep rocking. This is going to be how I sign off to every one of my questions, I think, from now on.
Kind of is how you do that already. Okay.
I do.
In the pursuit of truth, where to draw the line between morality, practicality, and circumstance?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a problem with this question because you can't draw a line between three objects. Boom, geometrified. You just got geometrified. Questioner. If you had two things, you could draw a line between them. Three things, unclear. Actually, you could, couldn't you? You could just put two things. Nope, couldn't be between them. Don't know. Listen, what was the question again?
It's in front of you, fool. Don't turn me into the question asker, okay? I'm here just as much to give these answers. You understand?
I think I actually jotted down something about this.
Well, it's not there in front of me, so.
No. Is this about the pursuit of truth?
Yes, yes.
I wrote, I don't just walk up to strangers on the street and shout at them about free speech. That's what I wrote down. Okay. So basically the idea was, hold on. Let me read this.
So should I answer first? Or
I need
what?
to
What's
read it.
going on
I
here?
tuned you out when you read the question. Hold on.
You did. That's your foolishness. You're trying to make jokes.
In the pursuit of truth, where to draw the line between morality, practicality, and circumstance? I don't understand the circumstance part. Can you explain that to me?
That's a good point, actually. Circumstance. Well, I think that means like different situations, Maybe different situations require different measures. So maybe that's what it means.
Tough to call. Tough to say, isn't it? Because I don't know. How are we pursuing truth here?
Listen,
what are we doing?
Listen, I want to answer this question in seriousness because this is a question that bothers me. It fucking pisses me off, okay? The thing is, no one seems to understand that everything is not an absolute. Everything is not always, every time, forever, or never, not at all, ever. Like, all the time I will write things about how it's important to do X, Y, Z. Like, you should tell the truth. You should, whatever, do things good. And there's always someone that's like, well, sometimes you can't tell the truth because in this unique, particular, concocted situation, it would have a different outcome. It's like, wow, you have discovered something called an exception. Like, what is going on in the schools that people seem to think that everything is always an all or nothing, especially when it comes to massive values like truth? Really, really. We live in a world where pursuing truth is that black and white. Of course, there are situations where you're not going to go up to people and be like, hey, you look ugly. Just thought you should know because I thought that and I have to tell you the truth. Like, is that really the question to people? Like, no, of course, right? Because someone that says that argument, they know that they wouldn't do that, which is why they're making the argument, right? They say, well, you couldn't do that. It's like, well, who are you talking to that is doing that? Like there's this belief that everybody else is so stupid that you need to make this argument that, oh, sometimes you should keep your thoughts to yourself. That drives me crazy. So I want to, drawing the line between morality, practicality in telling the truth seems to be a very difficult question for people. I think it's like maybe you look somewhat at the outcome, right, of what you're doing, And we've spoken about this before, that the intention behind it is important. I think it's like a longer term view, not just every instance. Like, it's really not that black and white. And people want it to be simple. They want it to be like, well, I always tell the truth or I never tell the truth. That's it. It's like, no, you actually have to use discernment to figure out when you need to tell the truth in a situation, and when the truth is just a thought that you're having that perhaps is not conducive to moving something forward in that situation. I mean, so I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, I don't know. This question frustrates me because it should be obvious, but like, look, there are situations where it's not, right? Like, I've been in situations where I maybe had to tell the truth about something, but it was like really bad timing. And it would mess up people's plans, and it would make me feel very uncomfortable. And I thought maybe if I just had a little more time to figure this situation out, I would be able to solve it. And then I'd tell the truth. But in the meantime, I need to buy myself some time by not telling the truth. So that turned out to be wrong. Like, that is an example of a situation where I was trying to discern whether truth was necessary in that moment. And it actually probably was. But it's a case by case thing. Like, it's not just like every situation. I think you can probably think of plenty of situations where, like, what if you were hiding the Jews, right? Like in Nazi Germany. What kind of an idiot would be like, you gotta tell the truth? Like, if you're hiding people, like, that's an example, right, where people lied a lot. I'm sure there was a lot of lying going on when you're trying to survive in a fascist regime. So there's an example of perhaps where truth is not as clear anymore. And that's actually important, because then you think about like how like a kind of there's a side effect, right, of having that kind of a repressive regime, which is it forces people to lie. Like, it actually forces you to lie. And that's kind of an interesting negative side effect of something like that. Oh, that's so interesting. But you see what I mean? Like, who in their right mind would think, oh, but I can't lie? Like, obviously, in that situation, you must lie, or at least you should lie. But, right, this is an upside down morality too. But of course, then you get into this kind of postmodern arguments and like, oh, well, we are living under an oppressive regime because I call it so I must lie. You know, like, you could twist things.
The question is too broad for me to contend with any longer. I reject it. Thank you for submitting it, though.
Terrible.
It's too big. What the fuck do you want me to do? Define truth first off, and then parse out every single one of these things? I mean, what are we doing? A philosophy lecture on the truth on a fucking podcast? No, I can't do that.
Yes.
We can offer some tidbits of wisdom or whatever, but, otherwise we're just going to go into... I said already you can't draw a line between three objects. I stand by it. That's Euclid.
We're never going to make it. We're never going to make it. We're never going to make it.
Make it where?
In the podcast world.
I can't reference Euclid, the geometer.
You have to answer questions on an AMA.
I just did it. This is a different type of show.
Boy, it.
Go find another podcast where they talk about Euclid. You won't find it.
We're not
you
talking
find it here.
about Euclid. We're not. You're quoting him randomly in a situation that he's not really bringing a lot of insight to the question.
I think I'm doing misinformation. Anyway, look, it's a good question, but it's just I can't. There's too much for me to.
Narrow
you said
it.
Good things. Obviously, you said things that are pretty obvious. Like, yeah, there's morally times where you should lie to do things. Okay.
The problem with that is that how do you discern that? Like, how do you say? I think it's that you can't lie to yourself too much. Maybe you start there.
This question. This is why it's annoying to me. There's no answer to this question. Why do you continue to feebly run around trying to answer such a broad question? It's impossible.
Personalize it to yourself then. I want to know, how do you deal with that?
Okay, I'll personalize it to myself. Sure. I do tell the truth a lot. I tell it when it's painful to other people, and I have very few friends. So here's your choice. If you want to be a person that tells the truth a lot, or as you see it, the truth, then prepare to live a certain way. And I'm not suggesting it's a good way to live.
Yeah.
So that's the circumstance part, I guess. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? I just told you the truth. I just told you what happens. Like, I'm not very much, I don't really like, when people tell me stuff I think is bullshit, I tell them I think that's bullshit. And that's a problem for some people.
Yeah, well, you don't really want, right? Because that's okay. So there you go. That's the difference between like...
It's a choice.
Well, I think what it comes down to is actually that you need to consider different values alongside the truth. And you need to consider your intentions. Like, there are people that tell the truth just because they're trying to kind of use the truth as a way to be completely unfiltered and say whatever comes into their minds without, you know, any concern for the ramifications of that. And all of this gets really tricky because like you can hear echoes of this argument that's like, oh yeah, you can have free speech, but there's consequences or something. And it's like,
there are consequences. That's the dumb part of anyone who makes that argument. No shit, there are consequences of free speech. People will be hurt. There are bad things that will happen. However, the consequences are less consequential than muzzling people and telling them they can't talk. That's it. No one besides a moron says free speech somehow cleanses the earth of all wrongdoing and it's great and everyone just suddenly speaks golden words that makes everyone perfectly happy and equal. It's mentally deficient, anyone who would think that. No one thinks that. Everyone understands there's consequences. There's going to be people that think that they should set 5G cell phone towers on fire because somehow they spread the coronavirus. There's people that are going to do a bunch of stupid things when you have free speech. People will die. People will be harmed. People will be mentally abused. People will be threatened. All those things are going to happen. That's true.
We
But
just don't
the
want a
alternative-
monopoly.
The alternative is worse. That's it.
You end up with all those things are still done, but they're just only in one direction, which is whoever holds the monopoly on speech then is the one that has the right to do all those things, while everybody else doesn't have the right to even push back. So, yeah, I think it's like, I guess the point that I'm getting to also is that I think it's important to consider the other values that you might have. So, yes, truth is a value, but I also try to consider my other values, which is, well, I value compassion alongside of truth. So it doesn't make sense for me to use truth as some kind of a weapon to maliciously attack people with, oh, but it's what I think is true. You know, I uphold compassion along with that. So there's a way to also deliver an unpleasant truth that's not, you know, mean or disrespectful.
You can just pursue truth quietly and shut up and not tell everyone about it. You don't have to, once you stumble upon some truth that you think you know, run out into the streets and start proclaiming it to everyone. It's not necessary.
This is also true.
You don't have to do it. There's plenty, again, the obvious these examples are too simplistic. I don't want to keep on going into it. Obviously, no one, this is what I kind of jotted down earlier, no one runs out into the street and just starts judging everybody and like telling them the truth about how they look or what they're doing or whatever. That's insane. Technically, that would be telling the truth a lot, but that you would be outcast from whatever village you live in pretty quickly if you acted like that.
And that's
So
discernment.
have some. Yeah, I don't. It doesn't even qualify to that level. It's not discernment. It's what every human being does automatically, without even. I mean, very few human beings, besides people that are, I think, seriously maybe mentally retarded, can do sometimes go out and just speak just randomly say things, or children.
Yeah.
You know, sure. It doesn't require discernment. No one just goes. I don't go up to my neighbors and be like, "Hey, fatty, you fat fuck, what you doing? Being fat? Hello." And then just be like, have a good day. Bye. You don't just say every true thing you see. And I'm not saying my neighbors are fat. I don't know. I don't talk to them. But you know what I'm saying? You don't just say everything that you think. But this is why I don't feel like, why am I even saying this? Everyone knows this.
I don't know I don't know why this comes up. I think that maybe there's something that we understand about this process that we're not actually like aware, like conscious of how we make these decisions ourselves, and maybe other people are not so clear on it. Because look, I have interacted with people that feel like no lie is ever acceptable. Never. And it's like, it's such an extreme view that it's incredibly not just impractical, but seems to misunderstand the point of pursuing
You've
the truth.
never interacted with a person like that. That's not real. That person doesn't exist. They'd be dead. That you can't. They would be dead. They would be killed. You can't interact with the world like that because someone larger than them, they would have told the truth to at one point, and that person would have battered them to a pulp. So no one just runs their mouth constantly telling the truth. It's not real.
Make this person not a straw man. Okay, it's not when they say that they never lie or whatever, they never want to lie. It's not that they say everything they think per se. So it's not that they're going up to someone and uninvited giving their opinion on their appearance or something.
Right.
But if that person were to ask them, they would say what
That's
they
how
thought.
that's how I act. Yes.
Yeah.
I tell when people ask me things, I tell them.
Yeah.
And again, consequences for that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I think that's enough. We've tried. We've done our best. You have to make these decisions.
It's not a bad question. It's just a huge question. It's impossible to obviously deal with,
Yeah, well, we just, we deal with it as we want, whatever. I'm going to make it the question that I can answer. I don't know. I don't seem to have that problem. I think it's interesting. It really does drive me nuts when people comment on like my writing or whatever, and they're like, "But what about this exception?" It's like, "What did you? What? Like, why would I have found the secret of life? Like some situation where there's never any exceptions? There's reasons to kill people. Like, there's exceptions
Probably.
against, like not
YouTube
murdering
rules." Can we move on? What's the next question? There's
Okay.
reasons to kill people. That's the answer. Go ahead.
Great, that's good. End me there.
Good job.
Leave me on that note. So, last question. Favorite Nine Inch Nails album? I've thought about this.
Broken. Done.
What?
Broken.
I don't even know that album.
That's because you're basic. It's the basic Nine Inch Nails understanding. You're going to say some basic Nine Inch Nails answer, but I know because I grew up. I grew up in the Nine Inch Nails milieu. I was there.
Did you really?
I don't know if I saw them or not. I don't think I did see them.
Whoa.
No.
Oh, that's
No, I don't think I
wasted
did. I was
life.
I did see a different band in Cleveland. And they were getting ready to go there, but I didn't buy a ticket for that.
Oh, fool's move.
Broken is an EP. I think it was like just a 6-song EP or something.
But
Came out before the Downward Spiral.
When was that? What year is that album? Do you know?
Well,
it's one of the early ones.
It was between Pretty Hate Machine and Downward Spiral. It's the two main ones. The Downward Spiral came out probably in 94 or 95, if I had to guess. So Broken was probably 93, 94.
Pretty Hate Machine is 89.
Yeah, right. So Broken was probably, I'm saying 92, 93, I don't know.
I'm looking it up. I want to know.
Downward
this.
Spiral might have even been 94.
He's released so much music. Oh,
It was probably
okay.
93 or 94.
See, Pretty Hate Machine was the first album. It's 89, which I was going to say is one of my favorite albums, obviously, because it's one of the albums with like the most bangers on it. That album is just a masterpiece. It's truly a masterpiece. It has so many songs that stand alone as masterpieces in themselves. But it's also one of the album, like it depends on my mood because I know all those songs so well because it's the album I over-listened. But then, let's see, then after that comes Downward Spiral, which is 1994. That one I never really listened to much. I don't really listen to that album that much. There's only a few songs I know from there. Like
That's
Piggy
the most famous album.
Really, is it? Yeah, I guess
Yes.
you're right. It has Closer on it, which is like one of the most like overplayed. Interesting. No, it's not. That
was
not
the most famous.
the one that I listened to the most. I listened to Pretty Hate Machine the most. And then also, I really liked The Fragile, which was in 1999. The Fragile.
Are you gonna do the tell me
Yeah.
when?
Absolutely. Yours. What was the one you said? Broken? Broken. Oh,
I have to do
where is
everything
this
myself.
shit?
Everything myself in this
What album?
podcast.
This doesn't come up. This must be like I'm looking at albums. That must be not. It It's not considered.
Because it's so underground that you can't even find it. I said it's an EP. Do you understand? A millennial EP is extended play. So when you bought your cassette, you had an LP, also albums.
Oh, here
like
it
that.
is.
An EP would only have a very, very short
I see what you mean.
amount of songs, usually 4 or 5 songs.
Correct.
When did that come
Broken.
out?
Oh, Broken. Yeah, 1992. Okay, yeah,
That was a little earlier than I thought.
There's a few. Wish is really good. That's the only one I really listen to a lot from this album, though I'm sure there's others. He has so much music, too, which is just like, wow. Yeah, that's a good one.
He lives in Florida. He lives in Fort Lauderdale.
Are you fucking joking?
No.
You're joking.
No.
This whole time, I've been this close to Trent Reznor. Are you serious?
As serious as I ever am on this podcast.
What's he doing out there? What the fuck? He
It's a
doesn't
nice place
seem
to
like
live, Florida. He loves freedom and heroin. He loves both.
Not anymore.
We got
Not
both.
Anymore.
So.
Shit. Yeah, well, The Fragile is the other one. Like, look, so it's my top 3 are Pretty Hate Machine, The Fragile, and With Teeth. I think that's like, it depends on my mood. All of those have bangers. Pretty Hate Machine has the most bangers. And is like, I listen to 9 Inch Nails now, and a lot of it is so, he is just one of the most true artists that captures like the true ethos of being a free artist. And there's so much like anti-authoritarian ethos in his music. A lot of the music has this very like, and of course like anti-authority, right? Like that's not surprising coming from this kind of like industrial music and whatever, but it stands so well still. Like it's still so fresh and so true and so like energizing to listen to his music. And especially now, like after all these crazy COVID authoritarian policies, I listen to his music and I'm just like, wow, this hits different now. This shit like The Hand That Feeds and all of that. It's just like, it seems more prescient now. I love his music so much. It's one of the true great artists.
Excellent. Well, I found a way to answer that question in one word, and you found a way to answer it in a 10-minute segment.
Do you think that's what people tune in for? One word AMA answers?
I think that it's a good blend. It's a good blend. Okay. It's a direct question and a direct answer.
And you just like, I have more airtime, and you're like the sitcoms where it's like, clap, yes, no, whatever. And it's just like not substantial so that we can move on.
This is what the Roman Caesar would do when he decided one of the gladiators would be slain. That's how I approach the AMA. Some of the questions get a thumbs up, some get a thumbs down. So that concludes this AMA. Listen, people, go ahead, keep on asking questions, do whatever you want, and they can be very philosophical questions. They can be questions that have one-word answers, and we will continue to answer them with a great deal of mirth. I think I've responded to these questions mirthfully.
Do you?
I do. I got a little bit of endorphins rocking from the sprinting, to be honest.
Yeah, you seem pretty mirthful. All right, that's enough of your mirth. Keep it to yourself right now.
Bye. Goodbye.
No, wait. No, join us. Become a patron. Subscribe.
We did this already at the beginning.
You got to do it at the end, too.
You really don't need to burden anyone with this again. Oh, feel free. Go ahead. Why don't you do that while you get some tea?
I got to tell them that now we're going to do the patron-only portion, okay? Where I talk shit about
already. This is why your answers are so long. It's because you repeat the same thing over and over again. But please, go ahead.
Because I'm in media. I understand that you've got to repeat things to people because they're like looking at their phone in the sky and they're all over the place. We're all over the place. So I'm here to keep you going, to keep you focused, to keep you moving forward to the patron only portion of this AMA where I get to talk shit about California. You got to listen to this story. It's so good. I'm going to tell people why I now have a weapon in my bedroom. leave you with that. And we're going to talk about the abyss and all of that, like really interesting things. So join us, become a patron. Only $2 and you get the patron AMA. Like you don't have to pay the main, the higher tier. So come on, come on. That's all I'm saying.
$7 though gets you double the episodes. All kinds of episodes that we don't release to the public.
Yes, that's right. Special episodes, one-off episodes, whatever. Like also you have just more sway, like you send us a message and we're going to answer, like that kind of thing. I'm going to answer. You're just like nowhere.
Well, I've said from the beginning, I reserve the right to not answer questions because I'm an American. Freedom.
You sure reserve a lot of rights.
I need to reserve a lot of rights. I've needed to reserve many rights, and I do. All right. Fifth Amendment.
See you
amendment. It's the amendment for criminals, isn't it? It's just funny. Briefly, I don't know why I just thought about that, but it's like, everyone's got their favorite amendment, right, in the Constitution. The Fifth Amendment's really the one for the criminals.
Wait, which one is the fifth one? And
you know what?
The plead the fifth.
Right?
Okay, yeah,
you don't have
that's
to
right.
say you don't want to talk.
Yeah,
you don't
that's
want to incriminate
for criminals.
yourself.
Yeah.
It is a really good amendment, and it's not just for criminals; it's for all of us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you have the right not to say anything. This is what I say with online when people are like, "Where's your Ukraine flag emoji?" Fuck off. Fifth Amendment. There you go. Use the Fifth Amendment on people. Just use it. Pull it out of nowhere. Your family asks you, "What have you been doing?" Fifth Amendment. Don't listen. Don't answer. Don't ask. Don't tell. Don't nothing.
That's what I do. A lot of times people will call me.
Silence.
Yeah, they'll call me and they say, "Hey, what's up, Justin A.W. Blair?" And I'll say, Fifth Amendment, boom, hang up. I'm done. Just Fifth Amendment, hang up.
That's why you have few friends.